Hey everyone, welcome back to the Crafty Couple. Thank you so much for being patient over the last week and a half. We just got back from a vacation from Yellowstone and had an absolute blast there. Let us know in the comments if you've ever been there or if you're wanting to go there. I would highly recommend. It is a very, very fun place to visit. But as always, we've got some fun projects for you today using Dollar Tree items. Let us know in the comments which project's your favorite. And if you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up. For this project, we're going to be using some of the spackling from Dollar Tree, and I found that by itself it has kind of a hard time sticking to surfaces, and just by adding a little bit of water, that will make it a lot stickier, and it makes it a little bit more creamy so that it goes onto those surfaces better, like glass, vases, or in this case we're using this foam wreath form. So just add a little bit of water in there and mix it up, and that's going to really help us apply this to whatever project we're doing. And then what we want to do is go ahead and apply this all the way around, and then we'll sand off a little bit. I like using the spackling because it sands really well, and this is kind of similar to when we're using the paint and baking powder or baking soda. We're kind of getting that gritty feel, and right here, as I am showing you, I'm just going to sand off some of those little chunks and high spots to give this a fairly smooth surface, but still give us some nice texture. Now there was this little seam here at the bottom, and I'm choosing to cut out a little notch here and using that as my bottom in the hopes that any floral piece that I put in here will kind of cover up that seam. And what I'm doing here is just making some scores here at the bottom here, cutting into the foam, and we're going to go ahead and use like a little screwdriver to get that out and dig out a little area here. And this is going to allow us to place some flowers, maybe succulents. I'm going to do an air plant for this one, so it just gives us a little hole there that we can stick like a stem or a little bit of a flower arrangement in there. The next thing that I'm doing here is taping off about halfway up the circle here, and I'm going to paint the bottom with this white Waverly chalk paint. So go ahead and tape both sides. Now originally what I was going to do is paint the bottom white and then use the mineral chalk paint from Waverly to paint the top. However, I did not have any of that kind of gray mineral color on hand, so I ended up doing a stone spray paint that I'll show you in just a minute. But right here, I believe all I really had to do was one coat. It did go on really nicely using that chalk paint over that spackling. Now once that paint has dried, we can move on to taping off the painted part so that we can do the spray paint stone. And what I did here was just put a little bit of tape here where the painted line is and tried to get that as close as I could. I didn't tape the whole bottom part because when I did remove the tape, I pulled a little bit of the paint up. So instead I just used some paper to kind of wrap around there and cover the bottom painted part so that when I applied my stone spray paint, I didn't get anything on there. And as you can see here, I'm just going to use some of that paper to cover that up. And here's the stone spray paint that I used. It worked really well, is easy to use, and I like how it turned out. Let me know if you think it would have looked better with just kind of the matte white and gray paint, or if you like the stone look on the top. And then I'm just using one of these air plants from Walmart. I really love these. I think they were only about $3.
For this project, I'm grabbing this white nautical rope from Dollar Tree and then just undoing all of it so that we will have 3 separate strands. Now that we have those all separated, just go ahead and set them off to the side. For the leather portion of this, I decided to use a bag that I got from the thrift store for only $1.50. I have heard that they are selling sheets of faux leather at Dollar Tree now. We haven't been able to find it, but that's definitely another option for this project, and plus you kind of keep it in the Dollar Tree family. If you decide to use a purse though, just make sure that one side has a pretty big sheet that doesn't have any buckles or pockets or anything like that. Now we just have kind of an odd shaped square piece, so I kind of was just measuring here about how high up I wanted it to go on this planter. So I decided to cut it at 7 inches all the way around. So I just made one line to go off of, measured 7 inches over, made a couple lines, then drew another line using the ruler just so that you can make a perfect square. Then just cut along all of your lines and you should have a perfectly square piece of leather. After that was cut, I decided I wanted curved edges instead. I just kind of think it looks better in the end. Now that we have all of those curved edges, it's time to add the holes in all of the corners. What I did was just grab a pair of scissors and just make a little tiny slit, and that worked really great for what I'm going to do here. So now all those corners are cut and we'll be putting the rope that we had from before through the hole, and then we're going to tie a knot on the outside so that the knot will be on the nicer leather looking part. Just do the same thing on all of them. You do only have 3 strands, so you'll want to cut one in half so that it's still pretty long and use that as the 4th strand. Then I just cut down the excess so it wasn't so long. And then the ends also, you don't want a long piece hanging down, so just cut those parts as well. The planter that I'm going to be using is just from IKEA. I believe it was around $3 to $5, and I thought it fit perfectly and looked really cute in here. And then the plant that I'm going to be using is also from IKEA. To finish it off, I just pulled all the strands tight and straight up, and then I just tied a knot at the top so that it has kind of a finishing look to it. Cut the excess off at the top, and then you can just hang this from the ceiling with a hook or from the wall with a longer hook as well.
For this project, we're going to be using this little gift box from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to start by spray painting with this matte River Rock spray paint from Krylon. And then what we're trying to achieve here is kind of a concrete look, and you'll need 2 paints. I'm using white and ink chalk paint from Waverly. You could probably just use a white and a black acrylic paint. I don't think it would really matter. This is just what we have. And then the next part that I'm going to do here is use this sponge to get a really watered down white color. You don't want to just go on with straight paint. It'd be way too heavy. We want to lightly dab this on here and give it a little bit of extra texture, and then you can use an opposite side of the sponge to lift up any extra or parts of the paint that's just too heavy that we don't want on there. You can also use kind of a paper towel like that. And then also what I did after I did the white all the way around, that's when I'm going to go in and add the black and do the exact same thing. Both of those colors together on top of this matte River Rock, I think looks really close to a concrete look. Now while our paint's drying, we can move on to the legs here. I'm going to spray paint these gold, and these are just the little 6-inch dowels from Dollar Tree. And then we're going to glue these on the corners here. Now, what we want to do is glue it down on one of these corners, skip a corner, and then glue it on the next one. So there should be 3 total, and then they're going to alternate where we glue those down. And for this project, it's really simple. There's not a lot to it. All we're using are the dowels and then this little gift box, painting it and then gluing these on here. I'd say probably the most difficult part is the painting process, but that really isn't that hard in itself. As you kind of get more comfortable with it, you'll get the hang of how to apply the paint with the sponge. And that's really all there is to it. I think it turned out really high end and modern.
For this project, I did make something pretty similar a little while ago, but I'm going to be using these craft sticks from Dollar Tree and these beads from Amazon. I didn't know exactly how many I needed, so I kind of just grabbed a bunch out. For the one that I did last time, I did leave the edges curved. This time I wanted them cut. So have one that's kind of a template one and just go off of that same one so that they are all the same length. To assemble it together, you'll grab 4 craft sticks and glue them in a square. In the end, you will want 8 squares total. Now it is time to place them together. So I grabbed 4 of the squares and lined them up like this so that the pointy parts are touching. And then I'm gluing the second one on top of these 2. And then the 4th one I'm gluing on top as well. Now that the middle section is done, we just need to add 2 to the bottom. So add a little bit of glue and hook it on to the second one in from the left. And then you're going to be adding one in, the second one in from the right, so that you have 2 just in the middle. Then you're going to be doing the exact same thing for the top. With that done, we're going to add the beads that I got from Amazon on all the points just in the middle. I didn't add them to the outside edges.
For this project, we're going to be using these 2 little canvas frames from Dollar Tree, and I already removed the canvas from these. All we need is the wood frame, and we're going to be painting these matte black. Now, while that's drying, we're going to go ahead and stain these little craft boxes. These are the inside boxes. There is an outside kind of shell, and we don't need that for this project. You can, if you want, use the a little bit bigger size. These are just the ones that I had left over, so I wanted to use these for a project, and I'm using the Early American stain from Minwax. And once we've given our paint and our stain a little time to dry, we can move on to gluing these together. All I'm going to be using is some hot glue from Dollar Tree to connect these, and I'm just going to eyeball it so that this is going to be in the center here, and this is held up just fine for us. We're not really putting a lot of weight in here. If you are looking to add something heavier, then you may want to use like E6000 or even a wood glue, but the hot glue works just fine for us. And this is a really simple project, but I think it's very pretty. You could go with kind of an industrial modern look with this, and that's really all there is to this project. I did add a little bit more hot glue to the back here just for some added strength. Thanks for watching, guys. We hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want more Dollar Tree DIYs, you can click through right here and check out our playlist with a ton of other DIYs. I know you'll love them. And as always, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you can be notified every time we upload a new video.